Alright, so this is the rewicking process for my Dovpo Blotto 1.5. Gonna go ahead and remove the cap, dump out as much juice as we can get out of it. I got some little sheets of toilet paper here because they're really absorbent. Just wipe it down with that, clean it off the top, get as much as we can out. I'll put the cap back on, twist it backwards. And you'll see that the top of the unit will unscrew. And you just take it apart like that. Alright, now from there I'll set the juice that I dumped out aside. Grab myself a pair of ceramic tip tweezers. And just carefully go up under the wick, grab it from underneath and pull it, and most of it will come right out. And you probably see there's a couple little wisps that didn't come. You just grab those. And of course they don't want to cooperate. But just give them a little tug and eventually they'll come out. There we go. So that's the old wick removed. Now, still a tiny bit there. Alright, so now what I like to do is get the coils themselves as dry as I can and wipe it off. You see it's a little bit black there from some slight burning of the cotton. Just dry those coils off as much as possible for the next step. Now this step is kind of optional. You don't really need to do this, but I like to do it because it gives you a cleaner, fresher start for your next set of wick. So all you're going to do is just hit the power button and hold it, and you'll see it start sputtering and splattering. Throw off a whole bunch of vapor and the coils will turn bright red. Excuse me. You kind of want to avoid letting it catch fire like I just did, but just to show you, we're just burning off all that extra guck, burnt wick, and burnt on crusties from the juice. Give it just a minute, let it stop smoking. Alright, so I'm going to set that aside. We can let that do its thing for a minute and cool down. While we do that, I'm going to take my cotton out. You're going to want an extremely sharp pair of scissors. I use this pair for nothing else. And I'm just going to cut off about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, somewhere right in there. And that is way more cotton than I'm going to need for this. So basically what I'm going to do is try to get something that's, when it's fluffed out and loose, is about 2 to 3 times the diameter of the coils I'm using. So in this case, fluffed out, we're looking at something roughly as big around as a pencil. And we just want to grab 2 chunks just like that, roughly as big around as a pencil. You want it kind of fluffed out, but also kind of neat. You don't want it to completely fluff out into a cloud. Alright. Those coils cool down pretty quickly, so those should be cool and good to go by now. And they're clean. You want to hold them up to the light and look at them side on and just make sure that the coils aren't touching the metal posts on either side. And make sure there's a tiny little gap in between them as well. I don't know if you can really see that. Then I'm going to take one of my little cotton fluffs here, and I'm just going to grab it at either end, it doesn't really matter which, and twist it between my fingers like this. And then I'm going to snip off the very end so we have a nice pointy tip on there. And then just slide that nice pointy tip right through. Grab it on the other side with your fingers and just pull it through. And you want to leave half, 3/4 of an inch, just a little, basically like a 1/4 inch past the outside edge of your vape when you're looking at it top down. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut off the part that we twisted, leaving about the same amount of wick on either side. Now we can fluff this up a little bit, just flick it with your finger and it'll fluff back up. And then we very carefully, I don't know if you can see here, but right down there, just on the side of the coil, there's a little channel that runs through there. We're just going to very carefully with the tweezers poke it down into that channel. And you want to see it pop out underneath. Alright, and once you see it pop out under there, like so, you just arrange it so that it occupies its half of this little gap here. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Poke it down. Poke it down, poke it down, poke it down. Pull it through. Fluff it up a little bit. And that's one coil rewicked. We just do the same exact thing for the other one. So I'm not going to talk much during this one probably, but you can just watch what I do one more time. I'm just going to trim off this end so that we have a nice flat smooth end without a whole bunch of frayed out stuff over here. Fluff that a bit. That's just fine. Now, one thing that is vitally important is if you have a little bit of air gap there between this lip and the cotton, you need to grab the cotton and lift it up and fluff it out just a little bit so it fills that gap. Excuse me. If the cotton doesn't fill that gap, you're gonna have a leak. So you want to be careful about that part. Just grab it and fluff it a little bit so that it fills that entire gap. You also want to be careful and make sure there are no little wisps, because these are threads and you're going to thread the cap back onto that. So you don't want any little wisps that are hanging down over those threads, because they will get in the way and it will make it really, really hard to screw your cap back on and cause leaks and all sorts of problems. You don't want that. So, oh, sorry. Keep bumping you guys and you're bouncing all over the place. So next step is we're going to put a little bit of juice on the coils directly over the wicks and just get those wicks wetted down a little bit. I like to come down and drip a little on each side too, just to kind of prime the coils and get them ready for the first vape hit. This again is an optional step. You don't have to do it, but if you don't do it, you'll probably want to wait about 5 minutes after you put it together just to let the juice wick into the chamber. So now that's pretty much the process done. We're just going to screw the cap back on. Just so happens that on my Aegis Legend 3, cap is screwed down tightly when the skull is facing forward, which is pretty freaking cool if you ask me. And then we just take the top off. I'm going to take that e-liquid that we dumped out of it a minute ago when we started, dump it right back in. And then we're going to watch for just a minute here and make sure no juice leaks out around the edge. But that all looks good. Now we're just going to top off the tank and we're ready to vape again. Thanks for watching.